Hi, I'm Don Straits. We are pleased to interview Dave Sanders, founding member and managing partner of WorldBridge Partners, an executive search firm. Dave is also an active angel investor. Dave is very active in placements within venture capital-backed technology companies, and Dave is well established in the West Coast venture capital community. He is a national expert working with early and mid-stage high-growth companies. Dave is a founding board member and past chairman of the board of the Golden Capital Network, a founding board member and past chairman of the board of the Sacramento Regional Technology Alliance, and a board member of the Sacramento Angels. Welcome, Dave. It is a pleasure to visit with you today.
Thanks, Don. Glad to be here.
Pleasure to have you, Dave. We have several questions. We're going to try and stump you a little bit and make it a little bit challenging for you. First question. Many senior executives would like to work with VCs and PEs as turnaround execs for portfolio companies. What does it take to achieve this relationship? And is it realistic for an executive to pursue the role as a VC PE turnaround exec?
Great question, Don, and we get asked that question quite a bit. Most VCs and PE firms have portfolio companies where they've had some prior experience working with some senior executives, and if they've had that success, then oftentimes they kind of stay in a short list of candidates for them to pull into other situations. So I would say look for opportunities where maybe you've had some success with a prior company turning things around. Reach out to a PE firm or a VC that might have been involved and build, that relationship and that rapport going forward.
Outstanding feedback, Dave. Great. Now a follow-up to that. Does the VC or the PE do the hiring, or is it done by the portfolio company?
I think it'll depend upon the situation. If the VC or the PE firm is coming in and they recognize going in that it is a turnaround situation, part of the negotiation could entail them replacing one or more key members of the executive team. In that case, they might be taking a leadership role in doing that. Other situations, it might be them sitting in the wings. They might refer a few people, but then they might let the current existing team make a decision on that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Great, outstanding. Let's move on to the next question. Many recruiting organizations have lost almost 50% of their business as a result of the recession and because of the emergence of social media platforms like LinkedIn. Can the recruiting industry recover from this?
Good question, Don. The same kind of questions came up when people just first started using the internet in the first place and people were posting job openings and those types of things. I don't think the world's changed all that much, to be quite frank with you. I think to be successful as a recruiter, you have to add value in the process. And for what I mean by that, it's one thing to use tools like LinkedIn to identify the names and possible candidates that you can go after. But the true art of being a great recruiter is truly understanding what the total requirements are for your client, working closely with your client to be able to better define that, and then reaching out into the marketplace and going after those top 10% candidates that quite frankly are not actively looking at postings that happen to be on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of selling that goes on way beyond identifying the names of the people. So I think the short answer to your question is if the recruiter's adding value in the process, that they shouldn't be too concerned about the advent of LinkedIn and other tools out there from a social networking standpoint. I can tell you today it's just as hard as it has ever been to go out and recruit the top 10% talent. We find that to be the case. LinkedIn's been a great tool for us, but you have to be able to come in and add significant value, in which case you'll continue to have business.
Outstanding response, Dave, because I think it's particularly relevant to job seekers to understand the role of the recruiter, as well as meaningful to corporate clients who are seeking to use recruiters.
Yep. Yeah. No, big misunderstanding out there. I didn't get a chance to say the one last thing about 15 years ago that I predicted that everybody would have their resume or profile on the internet. And we're pretty much there today.
And
but the reality is, so what?
Right.
Now you have access to 100 million people. What are you going to do next?
Right, exactly.
Still got to sell them.
Okay.
And there's a big piece of the equation that requires skill. So if you don't have the skill and you're just throwing resumes at people, you're not going to be there very long.
Okay, let's have a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
What types of recruiting assignments were lost during the recession, and what does this mean for the executive job seeker today?
So as I look to companies that we work with and some that I consult with, I would say for the most part, these tools, they're still posting their openings, whether it be, just on the generic mainstream job boards like Monster and Career Builder, or in some of the newer social networks like LinkedIn. They're still relying on people finding them. I think the best candidates need to be proactively recruited. So I would say, the mid-tier type positions are probably more susceptible to people responding on LinkedIn, but I would tell you most of the higher level searches that we're involved with, they're not actively looking when we call them, and it takes us 2 to 3 weeks just to get them to basically raise their hand, give some serious consideration to whether the time is right or the opportunity is right for them to make a change.
That's great. Outstanding insight, Dave. Dave, should a senior level executive be reaching out to recruiters? And if so, what is the best way for a senior level executive to reach out to that recruiter? Should it be by email, phone, old-fashioned snail mail, or through a LinkedIn connection?
Great question, Don. I think for the most part, and I'll use myself as an example, I probably get 400 unsolicited calls, resumes, emails a day. So it's like information overload. I would say if you're a senior executive that is currently employed, have some unique skills and abilities, and you're in a position where you want to get out ahead of the curve relative to looking 3 months, 6 months, 1 year down the road, I'm probably going to be pretty receptive to talking to that person. The other thing would be, depending upon the level of the position, once again, seeking out recruiters that focus on your individual niche. And once again, your value to them would be you're bringing some skill that's available, that's hard for them to easily uncover, and you're giving them some sense that you'd be open to making a change prior to you being in between jobs. Once you're out there, quite frankly, without work, it's a little different perspective, because most of our clients don't want to engage us to find people that are not currently employed. Their perception, whether it's real or not, is that if they're not working, then they can find them on their own.
Dave, that's excellent feedback for the executive job seeker. So let's move on to the next question. Dave, over the past few years, LinkedIn has absolutely exploded in its growth. There are now over 230 million profiles on LinkedIn. So virtually that profile represents a resume. Has the traditional resume lost its relevance to an executive recruiter?
Don, to be honest, I think the traditional resume lost its relevance a long time ago. Most resumes represent a chronological depiction of what somebody's done, duties and responsibilities. What most companies are really looking for help with is how to understand what you've been able to accomplish somewhere else and translate that accomplishment to their current needs. So whatever tool you use, that is the end result that you're looking for, and make it easy for the client, the customer, the person who might ultimately hire you, make that translation.
Dave, I love that response, because that really segues into my philosophy as well. When somebody says to me, Don, let me send you my resume, my response is, I don't want your resume. I have your resume, I can see that on LinkedIn. What I would like to see is your value proposition. What can you bring to our organization? Dave, if you rely on LinkedIn for resume information, do you request additional documentation from senior executive, such as perhaps a written value proposition, or maybe key accomplishment summaries, or do you even ask for recommendations?
For each position that we work on with our clients, we go way above and beyond the actual resume. What we try to do in conjunction with our client is to put together a list of questions that will give us a much better indication of what they've done somewhere else and how that might relate to this unique opening. And it's based on that, coupled with the rest of our feedback, and of course we'll attach a resume if there's one available, but it's that entire package that our clients look for us to put together on their behalf, and then we actually have a direct phone conversation with them about that candidate.
Once again, good feedback. Dave, that was outstanding advice that you shared with us today. It has been a pleasure to talk with you. I know your insights will be of extreme value to executive job seekers looking for new positions. So Dave, thank you again for taking your time, and we'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy your day.
Thanks, Don. I appreciated the opportunity.
You bet. Bye-bye.